Шановні журналісти, перепрошуємо за
Good afternoon, dear journalists. Sorry for a short delay. And now we will have the general update on the OSCE SMM activity and the security situation in Ukraine. We have Mr. Alexander Hug, Deputy Chief Monitor of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission, and Mr. Chubarov's briefing will be late by 10 minutes too. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear friends. As you know, I was in Donetsk region the entire last week. People there on both sides of the contact line told me once again that all they really want is for the conflict to stop. Yes, they need water, electricity and gas, and many need humanitarian assistance. But most of all, they want to be able to take their lives into their own hands again and to be free to move and work. They need this violence surrounding them to end so they can start rebuilding their lives. We all know political agreement is required if the conflict in the East is to come to an end. Too many people forget, however, that there are already agreements in place. Amongst others, they cover the establishment of a security zone, the withdrawal of weapons from, and the cessation of fires in the security zone. The prohibition on the use of mines and access for humanitarian aid. They are not perfect, but if adhered to, they provide the basis for a ceasefire and ultimately a lasting peace. Article 2 of the Minsk Memorandum in particular calls on the sides to maintain their positions as of 19 September 2014. Effectively, the sides have agreed not to move their positions closer to each other and to the contact line. The problem is the sides do not adhere to these agreements, and in particular to the Article 2 of the memorandum. I understand the fears that some people have. Disagreement or even just maintaining their 21st September positions is not without risk. Vacuums are filled, and if one side doesn't do it, the fear is that the other side will. Such an approach, however, is not conducive to maintaining a sustainable ceasefire. With every move forward, there is a reaction. Soon there is a spiral of violence that sees the sides relentlessly punishing each other. Sometimes there is a tactical or strategic rationale at play, but more often it appears that the violence becomes an end in itself. A sort of cancerous growth that consumes all before. There is usually no gain, no breakthrough, just stalemate with local people caught in the middle as armed men face off each other. Dear friends, the facts speak for themselves. Let's look at the places where positions have moved forward. 1 year on, after the so-called DPR violently took Debaltseve, the area there remains highly volatile. Monday evening, for example, in less than 3 hours, our team in nearby Svetlodarsk recorded over 100 artillery and mortar explosions there. And in Zaitsevo, on just one evening last week, we recorded over 170 mortar explosions. We have a similar story in Avdiivka Yasinovata. On Thursday, our monitors in Yasinovata logged over 300 explosions. I could go on about relentless violence in other areas where the sites have moved their personnel and hardware closer together. In the Pavlopil, Komiternovo, Oktyabr area, northeast of Mariupol, and in areas along the contact line in western Luhansk. And of course there is Shirokine, where the sides fought over a town that they ended up destroying. Even though the violence there has subsided, the town remains uninhabitable. It is still too early to say if the area around Berezove, about 30 kilometers southwest of Donetsk city, will also become a focus of intense violence. But the signs are varying. The Ukraine armed forces have moved positions closer to the contact line. Already, our monitors are registering some violence there, observing a fresh crater in the middle of the H20 road on Saturday, and hearing an explosion in the general vicinity on Tuesday. Reportedly, a Ukrainian soldier was injured there last week. This is exactly how it started in all other areas. Low level of violence initially, ratcheting up, and as the sides moved in more men and hardware, until eventually intense artillery barrages are common in place. And the grotesque situation eventually becomes normal, as you wish, a sort of grotesque normalization there. I have been in the military and I understand that war is terrible, and sometimes it is a price that has to be paid. But this violence we are witnessing is largely senseless. Moving forward a position 100 meters may be an easy public relation victory. But it does not bring victory. There has been no retreat on the other side. There is no retaking of territory. Only senseless violence bringing destruction, disruption, and death. The sides themselves paying a heavy price. Let's look at a few numbers. Of the 15 reported casualties last week among the Ukraine armed forces, 9 were sustained in hostilities in Avdiivka. Last Friday, our monitors in Kalinove, in the western Luhansk region, saw human remains and a charred, twisted remnant of a destroyed truck. 4 so-called LPR members were killed there the previous evening, and another 8 were injured when 2 anti-tank guided missiles struck their vehicle. Many of these places are on major transportation routes and hubs, such as Avdiivka Yasinovata or Berezove and Debaltsevo Svetlodarsk. They also constitute exit-entry points across the contact line. Zaitsev, along with Stanica Luhanska, are already closed because of the fighting. There is now no safe, approved place in the entire Luhansk region where people can cross the contact line. The region, whole communities and even families are separated when what really they need is that the two sides separate their forces. Dear friends, Orthodox Easter is nearly upon us. All over Donbass, people wish to travel to celebrate with their friends and families and to visit the graves of their departed loved ones. In all these areas where the sides have moved forward, such a simple human practice will be extremely difficult, if not impossible. Only this Tuesday, our monitors noted mines on the road west of Komiternove. 2 women in the town told us that they could not longer reach the local cemetery because of mines and booby traps. People have a right to freedom of movement, and they must be allowed to exercise their cultural and religious freedoms. Easter is a time of new beginnings, and it is a time for humane and truly brave decisions. There is no shame, no defeat in repositioning to agreed lines. It won't bring back those who have senselessly died, but perhaps it will prevent others from dying and allow the 2 women we met in Komiternovo and elsewhere in Donbass to celebrate and mark the true meaning of Easter. And of course, there is another celebration looming, namely the 9th of May, Victory Day. I just want to be very clear. Weapons in the security zone obviously constitute a violation of the Minsk Agreement. We have been publicly reporting on them for the past 2 weeks and will continue to do so when they appear, in particular in populated areas. As usual, at the end of my statement here, I would like to inform you about the latest mission numbers. As of today, the mission has 699 monitors, of whom 579 are deployed in the east. In addition, there are 293 Ukrainian colleagues and 84 other international colleagues working alongside us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hug. We have time to take 1-2 questions. If there are any questions or clarifications, this is the high time. Yes. Якщо є запитання або уточнення, то зараз саме час. Ми можемо взяти максимум 2 питання. Прошу.
Пане Хук, питання буде
The question will be in Ukrainian. Olena Shubkina, UCMC. Mr. Hug, mission of the OSCE reported that they saw 6 Gvozdika weapons near Marinka, and that was the question which was asked by Yuri Andryoha. He contacted us and asked us to clarify it. Are these the Gvozdika weapons, which Gvozdika 2S1, which is 120 millimeter, do they really belong to Ukrainian troops?
Question. Our report in this regard is clear. We indicate the areas that one or the other side controls, and weapons seen in these areas belong naturally to that entity that controls the respective areas. And my colleague just informed me that the reply has also been given on social media in the past days.
Thank you very much. Чи є ще запитання або уточнення? Are there any more?
Since there are no further questions, so the briefing is over.